Yes, folks, I read your comments, and occasionally when I think it's a good question that should be answered, I bring it up as a topic on this show. So in this episode, I wanted to talk about a lot of people wondering, why doesn't Cunard just buy the old Queen Mary and bring it back up to its good condition and sail it again? And frankly, there is a lot of reasons why. But first and foremost, I must point you out to another video that I have about why the Queen Mary can never sail again. I think that will answer a lot of questions. But it is important for me to kind of reiterate a little bit of it. And so basically, the first reason why Cunard would never buy the Queen Mary again is because of the sheer expense of just trying to get the ship to work again. First of all of the ship's boiler systems have been removed, as well as the power generating plants. There is only one of the two engine rooms still left on the ship, so they would have to completely install all new engines and all new engineering systems to get the ship to operate. As well as the fact that the ship is just completely outdated on maritime codes. It would need to be completely upgraded, and some of those upgrades would just make the ship unrecognizable. Again, I refer you back to my video about that because it goes into further detail, and so just trust me on that one. It's just really not feasible. But in any case, going into it further, let's just say if cost and expense wasn't a big deal to Cunard. The next reason why Cunard would never buy the Queen Mary is because Cunard is a modern company. They want to give people modern experiences. So they're not a heritage company. They're not a company that operates old things in order to relive the past. They have always been a company that innovates and creates the newest ocean liners, the newest ships that they can, and try to keep up with the modern market. And so taking back the Queen Mary and trying to operate it again as an ocean liner or as some kind of short-range cruise ship or something, it's not in Cunard's mission. It's not part of their business. That's not what they do. And so that's kind of just a major factor in it. I mean, when you really think about it, Cunard, they always get rid of old things. They don't keep them around. Cunard doesn't keep very many artifacts of their old ships. I mean, they do keep some, but not necessarily to the extent that a lot of other companies would probably try to preserve their heritage. Really, they're just a modern company. They want to deliver modern experiences to people. And Queen Mary, while she is a beautiful and lovely lady, she is by no means designed for the modern traveler. But another reason why Cunard would never buy the Queen Mary is because of the expensive operation. Queen Mary is an old ship. Even if they did spend all that money to refurbish her and upgrade her, she would still cost a lot of money to operate and to maintain. She already costs $5 million a year in just general maintenance, sitting where she is right now. It would be even more expensive in just general maintenance while she's out at sea, while the ship is flexing, while she's going through storms, and while she's going through just the general rigors of being on the ocean. So Cunard really, part of the reason why they want to operate modern ships is because modern ships just function better out on the ocean. And so besides the upgrades and besides the aging look of the ship, it just wouldn't be that feasible for them to operate the Queen Mary successfully as a cruising attraction of some kind. So another reason why Cunard would never buy the Queen Mary and operate her actually has to do with Long Beach itself. Long Beach owns the ship, and Long Beach would not get rid of the ship. I know some people think, well, if Cunard offered enough money. Well, true. I mean, if you offered several $1 billion, I think that Long Beach would be like, okay, here, take it. But it would have to be in the billions. And the reason why is because every year the ship earns the county $205 million in tourism revenue. It earns the city of Long Beach about $3 million in tax revenue every year. And the ship employs, nearly 1,500 people, both directly and indirectly related to the ship itself. It's just a huge economic money maker. And so the city does not want to get rid of it for that reason. That's the whole reason why the Queen Mary is currently being refurbished, not to working condition, just to a good, beautiful tourist attraction condition, is because they need it to continue making that money. They need it to continue giving people jobs and generating income for the city and for the county itself. Getting rid of the Queen Mary, even if it was getting rid of the ship for free, it would still take huge cuts into the annual revenues of the city and the county to do that. And they're not prepared to do that. It would just be economically irresponsible to do so. So Cunard would have to offer something that the city can't refuse. It would have to be at least $1 billion, but I see it being at least more than $2. And even then you have to wonder, would Cunard really spend $1 billion to take back the ship? Then they'd have to spend $500 million refurbishing its interiors and beautifying her, plus maybe another $500 million just installing all new machinery and things that could get the ship to run again. So it's just, it represents at least a $2 billion cost. And for that price, they could build, 2 brand new cruise ships that could satisfy many, many, many more tourists than the original Queen Mary has the capacity for. But the last and final reason why Cunard would never buy back the Queen Mary and operate her as a cruise ship or an ocean liner is simply because she could never generate enough money. Now, I'm not just talking about costs. True, costs have a big part to play in that. But the biggest reason why she wouldn't make that much money is because the offerings that the Queen Mary has to give is not what people want today. I think that the only people that would truly want to sail on the Queen Mary if it were returned to ocean service are people who are like me, who are big fans of ocean liners, big fans of the Queen Mary itself and wanting to see it operate again. But you can't fill the ship every single day with those kinds of people. Eventually you'd run out. There just isn't enough people who would spend that much money. And not to mention, a room on the Queen Mary, if she were to sail again, would cost most likely 50%, at least 50% more than a luxury room on a cruise ship. And the reason is because in order to make back the costs of operation, the Queen Mary would have to be very expensive. And when you think about it, the Queen Mary really only has just about 300 of those fancy rooms. So most likely the rooms that you'd be staying in would have to be either something along the lines of a third class or second class room, or if you were lucky, they were able to install brand new rooms in the lower areas of the ship where third class used to be. But even then, there would be a lot less of those rooms than there were originally on the ship. So what I'm trying to say is a modern cruise ship cabin is just about the size of 3 or 4 third-class Queen Mary cabins. So that's 4 rooms out of the picture in place of just 1 room that you can fill with passengers. And so the ship just wouldn't earn enough money. And so they'd have to charge an exorbitant price. And the ocean liner fans, while they would have this initial excitement and they'd save up a ton of money and go and be on the ship, they wouldn't be able to fill the ship every day with people in order to make that money back. And the passengers that go on the Queen Mary, they would notice that they wouldn't have very good views of the ocean. There wouldn't be any balcony cabins. I mean, unless you really altered the ship, really, really, really altered the ship to have balcony cabins on the upper levels, which just destroys the whole point, of the Queen Mary coming back. But, there's only one or two restaurants on the ship that would really offer views of the ocean, such as the Veranda Grill, and if they kept Sir Winston's restaurant there as well. So it just isn't a good idea all around. There's just no reason. There isn't a single reason why Cunard would want to buy the Queen Mary back. It is more trouble than it's worth. And I know that kind of disappoints people. The whole reason why people have been asking why doesn't Cunard buy the Queen Mary back is because they feel like the Queen Mary is missing out on something. And maybe, all these years the Queen Mary hasn't been treated very well by previous operators, or probably hasn't. In some operators' cases, the Queen Mary was treated well. It's just that they didn't really know how to build the business up and how to make it more successful. So the Queen Mary has in some ways always been struggling. And so I understand people's want and desire to see the Queen Mary really fulfill her potential. But let me remind everybody, when the Queen Mary was originally in service out at sea, she was very popular. She fulfilled her purpose. She had those glory days. So she's not missing out on anything. She had them. She had a great time. And now what we have to do is, in her retirement, we have to help find ways to make the ship a successful static tourist attraction. And that's what we need to do. It's not bringing her back into the ocean. You just wouldn't earn enough money from it. So, we have to be practical about these things. And I know some people would really disagree with that. I know some people would really say, no, she would make a lot of money out at sea. Frankly, all I have for you is just the evidence that large ocean liner companies don't bring back their ships for that reason. So that's all I have for you today, folks. I know it doesn't sound all that amazing, but when you think about it, really, the Queen Mary is in retirement, and she deserves to have a very wonderful, successful retirement. I don't see bringing her back out onto the ocean as the answer or the solution. But anyway, folks, thank you all for joining me. I'll see you all next time, and have a good one. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and comment below. For more stories on the architecture, engineering, and history of the Steam Age, make sure to subscribe. You can support me by either becoming a Patreon member or channel member, or you can help donate to my transatlantic voyage to the UK. Links and information are in the description below. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.